drawback. This is only like one of the many performance tests. Right here you can see how we keep
And now I'm going to hand it over to our panel, and I'll see you guys at the Q&A.
Oh, okay. Hi, so you guys can hear me? Yeah. We're really excited to be here. Thank you all for coming. Let me just figure out the mouse situation. Where is it? Okay, that's the mouse. Okay, cool. Oh, I get it now. So I'm still getting used to this setup. So let's get started. I'm Rachael Yang. I'm a Lookdev artist at DreamWorks. So in case some people don't know, look development as a department, we do texturing, shading, grooming, and also micro-dressing. So I'm going to show you some of the characters and environments we did for the show, and also some of the challenges that we faced. Okay, so for a sequel like Bad Guys 2, look development is all about elaborating on the art style. So it's also about improving the technology to support the art style. So squiggles as a workflow went through a lot of streamlining. So just in case, context, squiggles are these scribbly lines that we add to all surfaces to push the illustrated look. We also use it to break up the 3D model edges. So for characters, you can see at the bottom, yes, the bottom. Like Lookdev will provide texture squiggles as AOVs for lighting and compositing to play with. But for environments, we also provide geometry squiggles. They can either be published with the asset or they can be added to the shot as needed. So for the next slide, does it play? All right, so I guess the first question is how to paint with the bad guy style. So personally, as a painter, I feel like it's good to have a bit of painting experience, know your oils, do a bit of watercolor, try some pastels, but more importantly, from a production standpoint, it's kind of important to practice fully embracing the spirit of each show when you move on to a new show. You really need to kind of let go of what you think you already know and then just dive deep into the show style. So because each DreamWorks show, I think we all can agree here, like each DreamWorks show style is so different, everything you learn from the ground up. So personally, as a texture artist, I kind of find it easier to imagine myself as a certain type of artist when I move on to a show. So let's say I'm on Puss in Boots too. So what I imagine, like, I really need to channel that Bob Ross inside of me. I have this thing like, okay, I'm gonna have canvas, I'm painting a masterpiece here. I'll treat myself to some wine, But when I go on to Bad Guys 2, okay, I have to switch this mindset now. So then I kind of channel my inner goofiness, if that makes any sense. It will make more sense later. But you just have to be you channel your inner goofball, and then I'm thinking like, okay, I'm doing outdoor sketches, this is fast, but I only have one old brush. That's my limitation. One old brush, maybe a marker, And instead of wine, I'll bring a sandwich on the way. So it's this kind of silliness that builds up the bad guy style, and it's all about like broad brush strokes. Like it has to be effortlessly funny. So give you guys a little look at our beautiful environments. Yeah, space. Yeah, this is a lot of work by our entire environment team. This is their pride and joy. I have to show this off. All right. How do I go to the next one? Do I just click? No. Do I scroll? All right, here we go. So we're going to talk about look of picture here. So all of that, what we're saying is we have to condense these into a few elements so everyone can follow. So there's the element of lost and found. There's these rake scratches. there's sketchy lines, there's thing we just introduced called squiggles. And the whole idea, all of this has to be wrapped in this idea of sophisticated silly, which you'll see more and more as we present our work. Okay, so this is the concept art for the Betty Beater car. So this is one of my early assignments. This is the image that we start and we take it to model and texture. Model and texture. So notice how all of the four to five elements we talked about are all on this car: the lost and found, the brush strokes, the sketchy lines, and then you notice like how all of these these pathetic water-stained shapes, like they're round, blobby. The sun bleach marks are also round and blobby. So this is the essence of the concept. So here comes the point. So it's not always the goal of look development to copy the concept art one-to-one. So it's more important that you understand the intent behind the concept, and then you push the idea further. So, okay, we get it now. So the Betty Beater car is supposed to look dirty, kind of pathetic actually, but in a very funny way. That's the whole point. So this is the final texturing and shading I did for this asset. You can see, let me see. Go faster, render. Okay, you can see like the sun damage shapes on the top of the car. Like I tried to accentuate the round and silly shapes. And then actually all of the rust, the scratches, the mud, and more like water stains. If you look close enough, like all of it is actually hand painted with that squiggly, doodly vibe. But the thing is, like on this show, I think a lot of people can agree, like you can't really project any photorealistic textures on. It just doesn't fit the style. So even the dust marks on the windows, we have to like imagine like there's dust on the window, and then we use a brush, use a brush strokey way to wipe it, to just put brush strokes everywhere. Like play this, and this is the final result. You guys look at it. Like also interesting, like for this car, because it's their main car, we actually had to think about characters as part of the composition. Like where we put the dust marks was actually really important, because if it's too solid, or it's in the right it's not in the right placement, it will block the characters' eyeline and their expressions, and that's not good for animation. So yeah, that's one thing we had to think about as a character artist. Okay, so we're going to talk about one more element, and that's level of detail. I forgot what I'm going to talk about this. Oh, right, trees. So when talking about level of detail, we're going to talk about our LOD tree system. So on this show, there's actually many ways to grow a tree. You can see in the middle right here, like on the cypress, we grow some of these curves off the sides, and then at render time, they're going to look like brush strokes. And then we have this palm tree, which we talk about geometry squiggles. We use those geometry squiggles to break up the big leaf shapes. In the middle here, if you see, like this is, we can hand create these graphic grass cards, and then we scatter them on the ground plane for ground cover. So, but the trickiest thing was actually these voluminous puffy trees. So what we did was, modeling gives us the blob. That's the shape we have to follow. We remove the blob. We put instance points in the blob. The instance points will later become leaves. And then we render. Oh, sorry. Then we render. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So, but the thing is, we started out with a PBR shader, and just so you guys know, Bad Guys 2, even it's stylized, it's actually a PBR show. We don't use toon shading until we need it, because PBR materials gives us more control. And also the Bad Guy style, it's not really about, it's about simplifying materiality. it's really not about stripping it completely away. So, but for the trees though, because when we were using physical-based rendering, all of the leaf detail, it was just too much shadowing, too much noise, and it was just not graphic enough for the style. So we tried toon shading. So for the trees, the puffy ones, we use a custom toon shading setup on the show, and we have 3 LOD switches. So you can see on the far, what do you call this? Is this right? Right. The right, thank you. On the far right, like this is toon shading at its best. Like the shape is clean, the shading is clean. But if we needed the trees to be more in the foreground, or maybe it's like a hero tree, then we slowly crank up a procedural color noise that you can see in the middle of the tree. I'll have to let this play and go to the next slide. Do I just go? Sorry, I need to figure it out. Yeah, I'm trying. Okay, yeah, thank you. And so this is the final result with all of the different vegetations and us switching LODs on these trees. And you can see some of the grass cards right here. Okay, then next we're going to talk about characters. So for characters, the challenging thing was doing painterly fur and feathers. And we're going to start with fur. Fur is actually the easier one. So this is a hero character, Kitty. So on this side, on the left, you can see this is her concept art. And you see like how she has like these spots that has these very specific brushstrokey rake marks in it. And also the edges are sort of broken up like with a brushstrokey style as well. And then on this side, the fur grooming and surfacing was actually done by our senior character artist, Carson McKay. What we do here is, this is what we call a paint over. So we do a first pass of the grooming and shading, and then we render it, send out an image, and then we hand it to the art department. And then what the art department will do is like they'll go over this and then paint on top of it. They'll be like, oh, maybe we move this spot somewhere else. This spot doesn't look right here. Maybe this spot we have more brushstrokes right here. And then you can see if you compare especially on the under the eyes, the spots we actually reduced after the paint over. And this happens a lot in production for animal grooms, especially animal grooms with patterns, because they have so much expression going on around the face and eyes. Like a lot of these like spots, dots, they stretch too much and get distracting, and it kind of gets in the way of character performance. So long story short, it's better to keep it graphic and clean. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the shading side of her fur. So her fur actually is a blend of 2 types of hair shading. We have an example from this image from, this is probably Trolls 1. So you can see this is like, for example, this is a base geo with a color texture on it. So the first traditional hair shading method is what we call surface root, the surface root method. So what it does is there's a strand of hair. The curve at the root point reads the color texture from the skin, and then the entire strand of hair will inherit that color. So what this gives you is this very organic, fur look that it's like the hairs have grown out of that texture. But the problem is, yeah, it's great, it looks organic, but it's a bit blurry. This is because the hair length will drastically affect what the final color output looks. So we need to find a way to accurately project this texture onto the fur. So that comes the second method, which we call the closest point method. So what closest point is, try to keep this simple, but it's a curve, and then there's a bunch of points on the curve. Each point has to do a closest point projection. It projects itself onto the skin, find the closest distance, and grab the texture color of that point. So hence it's called closest point. So for kitty, like it needed to be the blend of two. So you can get the accurate like rake marks into the spots, but still have it look organic. And so some people might ask, like, well, why can't we just use the closest point method? It does the job, right? You want the spots accurate. But it actually, if we only use the second method, what will it look like is you have like a stencil and you have a bottle of spray paint, and you just, you know, spray painted like a spot onto a gray cat, and it's not natural, it looks weird. So that's why any pattern animals on most of our animal shows, like it's a blend of both. With this play, and this is the final result. Yeah. One little other thing about animal shows is like we still have leather on these shows. So any animal show at DreamWorks, they actually want us to keep the leather texture a bit vague, make it fake leather, or else if you have too much skin grain on it, it's a bit like animal wearing animal, and it gets a bit uncomfortable, I guess. And so that's why like for like on bad guys as well, we keep the leather fairly simple. Okay, go to the next. And finally, we're going to talk about Susan. Susan is probably the most complicated character on the show. Yeah, Brooke nodding. She'll talk about more. Okay, so we'll start with the concept art, the gray one on the far right. Like this is also from the art director's concept design. They actually specifically said, okay, this gray image here, this is purely for a feather placement. They said we don't want to see every single feather on her body all the time, like because it's too distracting. Like if she was put against the other characters on the show, she will look too eye-catching and noisy. So in the middle, this image is the actual shading quality they wanted from us. They wanted like the feathers to look like they were painted on, like it has to have a lot of lost and found, and she has a lot of night shots. So they want like when the light spins over her, you see that like glistening effect, like going over her body. So her shading is also very light dependent. So it's a very time-consuming task to get it right. So this is done by my supervisor, Andy Harbeck. This is only like one of the many performance tests. Right here you can see how there's almost like no feathers around the face. We actually use fur to do it, so to keep it painterly. But onto the wings, then when the light spins, you see like this glistening effect of the feathers. So this is the challenging part. I'll try to explain this right. But this is how we blend the feathers for her, specifically on the show. It's not for all shows, it's just for Bad Guy Style. So first you have the arm, the skin geometry, and you can notice like on the elbow side, you can see like this is actually it's the feather shape modeled into the skin geometry, and that we hand it to rigging. We'll rig it, and animation will move it. On top of this, like this feather, the colorful cards, they're CFX feathers. So CFX will take full control on these tiny little feathers on top of the arm. They go through this process called lamination. So what lamination means is each feather, when they overlap, they understand their relationship with each other. They also understand the relationship with each other and the skin. So when a character is deforming and moving a lot, all of the feathers will calculate their distance and their relationship with each other and the skin, and then do not penetrate each other when the characters move. And then on the bottom right, this is her head feathers. That's actually a head hair. So the feathers on the head also need to be sent to rigging and to rigging and animation to do full controls. And because of the shape of those feathers, we decide like it's easier to just consider it's hair. We'll use our traditional tube grooming method to do it and hand it off. On the on the bottom right here, on the left side, there's a path of fur all over her face and all over her wings and body. This is the element that blends between the skin, the CFX feathers, the head hair, and everything else. And it also helps her kind of look a bit more brushstrokey and tie her into the other characters as well. Okay, last step is what we call the stamp map. A stamp map is actually a tool we borrowed from Puss in Boots 2. So what it does is it's projecting these instance cards with some randomized normal information back onto the skin, and it's overriding the shading normals. So this is how when the light goes over the wing, you can see this glistening, almost like paint stroke effect. And that's all from Lookdev. Thank you all.